It was 2 a.m. when the front door creaked open. I'd been sitting there for hours in the dark, the glow of the lamp painting shadows across the living room. The silence was heavy, almost suffocating, but I stayed calm. I wanted to see how she'd walk in, what excuse she'd come up with this time. She stumbled through the doorway, heels dangling from one hand, hair tangled, and the stench of alcohol and some stranger's cologne clinging to her like a confession. Her eyes widened for a split second when she saw me waiting, but just as quickly, her expression shifted to something colder, something smug. I didn't say a word. I just looked at her, steady, unblinking, the kind of look that carries years of disappointment, stacked betrayal upon betrayal. She let out a small laugh, bitter and cruel, then tossed her heels onto the couch like I was nothing more than an inconvenience. "I got the attention I needed," she said. Her voice was sharp, almost mocking, as if cutting me down gave her power. My chest tightened, but I didn't flinch. Instead, I leaned forward, my voice calm, almost too calm. "Your bags are packed." For the first time that night, her confidence cracked. The smirk faltered, her eyes darting to the hallway where I'd laid out every suitcase she owned. But just as quickly as the panic came, it was gone, replaced by a cruel, twisted smile. But that cruel smirk on her face told me this was far from the first time. Before that night at 2 a.m., before the packed bags and the cruel smirk, there was a time when I believed she was everything I had ever wanted. We met through mutual friends during my last year of college. I was the quiet, dependable type, focused on finishing my degree, working part-time to cover my expenses, and planning for the future. She, on the other hand, was the kind of woman who drew every eye in the room without even trying. Charismatic, magnetic, and with a smile that made me forget the world for a moment. From the beginning, I told myself I was lucky. She chose me. She laughed at my corny jokes, called me her rock, and made me feel like I was finally seen. In those early days, she was affectionate, attentive, and always knew how to make me feel like the center of her universe. It was almost too perfect, but I never questioned it. Why would I? I threw myself into building a future for us. I took on extra shifts, saved every dollar I could, and encouraged her to chase her own ambitions. When she wanted to switch majors, I covered more of our expenses. When she wanted to take a risk on a new job, I supported her. I told myself that's what love was: sacrifice, commitment, loyalty. But slowly, small cracks began to show. She craved compliments from strangers, seemed restless when the spotlight wasn't on her, and brushed off my concerns with a laugh. "You're overreacting," she'd say whenever I noticed her flirting a little too comfortably with other men. Still, I told myself relationships are built on trust, that love meant giving the benefit of the doubt. I convinced myself those little warning signs didn't matter, that ignoring them was the best way to keep the peace. I thought ignoring the small things would protect our love, but instead, it only gave her room to grow bolder. It didn't happen all at once. The cracks that had once been faint lines began to widen, stretching into wounds I could no longer ignore. It started with the little things, harmless on the surface but corrosive when repeated. Parties, she seemed to forget I existed. She would laugh a little too loudly at another man's jokes, touch his arm as if I wasn't standing right there. Once, she even joked in front of a group of friends that I was the safe option, the boring guy who would never cheat, never leave, never surprise her. Everyone chuckled, but inside, I felt something shatter. When I asked her about it later, hoping for even the smallest apology, she rolled her eyes. "You're too sensitive. Stop being insecure." That became her weapon of choice, gaslighting. Every time I brought up her behavior, I was the problem. My feelings weren't valid. They were flaws she could twist and use against me. Her phone became a fortress. She kept it face down on the table, passwords changed, notifications silenced. When I asked why, she'd smirk and say, "Why do you care? Do you not trust me?" She started going out late, claiming it was just friends or work events. More and more nights ended with me sitting awake, staring at the clock, while she stumbled in hours after midnight. One night, she came home at 4 a.m. Her makeup was smeared, her dress wrinkled, and when I asked where she'd been, she laughed it off. "Relax, I just lost track of time." She kissed me on the cheek with lips that reeked of someone else's cologne. I wanted to believe her, but my gut screamed otherwise. Then there was the shirt. I found it in the laundry, faint lipstick marks staining the collar. She claimed it was a joke, that her friend had playfully kissed her shirt while drunk. The story made no sense, but I swallowed it, convincing myself it wasn't worth another fight. The worst moment came when I finally saw her phone light up with messages I wasn't supposed to see. Flirty exchanges, inside jokes, late-night texts that crossed every boundary of respect. My hands shook as I confronted her, thinking surely she'd have no way to explain it. But she didn't even deny it. She turned it on me instead. "You had no right to snoop through my phone." That's the real betrayal here. My world spun. Somehow I was the villain now for catching her in the act. It wasn't just me who noticed. My friends started pulling me aside, telling me I deserved better. Even my family, who tried to stay neutral, gently warned me, "She doesn't respect you. We can see it." I brushed them off, clinging to the hope that maybe love could fix this. Maybe the woman I fell in love with was still in there somewhere. I told myself things would get better, that every relationship has rough patches, that loyalty meant holding on, even when it hurt. But nothing could prepare me for the night she finally crossed the line, and came home at 2 a.m. with that heart-shattering confession. The clock ticked past midnight, then 1, then 2. I sat in the living room, the glow of a single lamp illuminating the bags I'd packed hours earlier. Every zipper, every folded shirt, every pair of shoes I placed in those suitcases carried the weight of years I had sacrificed. By the time the door creaked open, I wasn't angry anymore. I was emptied out and sharpened into something colder. She stumbled in, heels dangling from her hand, perfume and alcohol clinging to her skin. Her eyes landed on me, sitting there waiting. For a second, she looked startled, caught off guard. But the shock vanished quickly, replaced with that same smug smirk I'd grown to hate. "You're still up?" she said, as if I were the one out of place. I didn't move. I didn't speak. I just looked at her, steady and unblinking. She let out a dry laugh, tossed her heels onto the couch, and with the arrogance of someone who thought she held all the power, she said it. I got the attention I needed. The words sliced through me, sharper than any knife. In that single sentence, she confirmed everything, every suspicion, every late night, every gaslit argument. The mask was gone, and in its place was nothing but cruelty. For a moment, the room was silent except for the pounding of my heart. And then, for the first time in years, clarity washed over me. I stood slowly, my voice steady, almost unnervingly calm. "Your bags are packed." Her eyes flicked to the hallway where the suitcases waited. The confidence faltered. She laughed nervously, stepping forward. "You're really kicking me out? Don't be ridiculous." But when I didn't answer, panic seeped into her voice. "After everything I've given you? After everything we've built?" I felt a bitter laugh rise in my chest, but I didn't let it out. Instead, I thought back to every moment I had stood up for her, every time I'd ignored friends who told me she wasn't good for me, every red flag I'd convinced myself was just in my head. I saw myself working double shifts, giving her the best years of my life, all while she drained me of respect piece by piece. "You defended me when I didn't deserve it," she said suddenly, her tone shifting to guilt. "You always said you loved me no matter what. Don't throw us away because of one mistake." One mistake. I finally spoke, my voice low, cutting. "Do you think I'm blind? Do you think I haven't seen the messages? Heard the whispers? Felt the distance?" I stepped closer, holding her gaze. "Respect was the only thing I ever asked for, and you threw it away." Her face hardened. She tried one last tactic, anger. "You'll regret this. No one else will put up with you like I did." I almost smiled at the irony. For years, I thought I needed her, that losing her would break me. But standing there, watching her scramble for control she no longer had, I realized the truth. She needed me far more than I ever needed her. I picked up the first suitcase and placed it by the door. The sound of it hitting the floor echoed through the room like a final verdict. "It's over," I said, calm as stone. For the first time, she looked small, powerless. Her smirk was gone, replaced by something closer to fear. She opened her mouth as if to argue, but nothing came out. That night, she lost control over me forever. But little did I know, the fallout from that night would shake more than just our marriage. The morning after she left, the silence in the house was deafening. For the first time in years, there were no slammed doors, no perfume lingering in the hallway, no late-night footsteps creeping across the floor. It should have felt like freedom, but at first it just felt empty. She didn't stay quiet for long. By noon, my phone was buzzing with messages. Not from her, but from mutual friends, telling me she was out there spinning her story. According to her, I was controlling. I was insecure. I had overreacted. and thrown away a perfectly good marriage over nothing. She painted herself as the victim, the poor misunderstood wife who just needed a little attention. Her friends took her side, parroting her words. She's young. She just wants to have fun. You're too uptight, man, loosen up. But the further those words spread, the less weight they carried. People had seen the way she acted at parties. They'd heard the whispers, noticed the way her phone never left her hand. Some of them weren't shocked at all. My circle? They stood firm with me. My best friend said, "Good riddance. She's a narcissist." Another sent me a message I'll never forget. "Bro, you handled it like a king. Most guys would have exploded, but you kept your dignity." Even people who barely knew us chimed in with support. One wrote, "This is textbook gaslighting. Glad you got out before it got worse." The division was sharp, but it revealed the truth. The people who mattered saw through her act. Even her own family couldn't defend her. Her mother called me quietly one evening, her voice heavy with shame. "I'm sorry for what she did. She embarrassed us, too." That hit harder than anything. Her own blood couldn't stand behind her choices. My parents, they didn't gloat. They didn't say, "We told you so." Instead, they simply said they were proud. Proud that I chose self-respect over humiliation. That I finally drew the line she never thought I'd draw. And yet, in the midst of all the validation, I felt something unexpected, heartbreak and relief colliding inside me. Heartbreak for the years wasted, the love I thought was real. Relief for finally being free of the constant doubt, the late nights, the gnawing suspicion that ate away at me. For so long, I thought losing her would break me. But sitting in that silence, I realized the truth. Losing her wasn't the end of my story. It was the beginning of finally getting my life back. And in that silence, away from her chaos, I realized something I should have seen years earlier. In the weeks that followed, I began to rediscover myself. The house that once felt like a cage of arguments and silences became a place of peace. I started waking up earlier, not to check if she'd come home, but to take morning runs, to breathe air that wasn't heavy with suspicion. I picked up hobbies I'd abandoned years ago, playing guitar, cooking meals I actually enjoyed, meeting friends I had slowly drifted away from while trying to hold a crumbling marriage together. There's a strange kind of clarity that comes after chaos. When you've been drowning for so long, finally reaching the surface feels unreal. For me, that clarity was this: love without respect is just a slow form of self-destruction. You can pour everything you have into someone, but if they see your loyalty as weakness, they'll keep taking until there's nothing left. I had ignored red flags because I thought loyalty meant endurance. But loyalty without boundaries isn't love, it's surrender. And I promised myself I would never again confuse the two. The lesson I walked away with was simple, but powerful. Don't let loyalty blind you to toxicity. Boundaries aren't walls meant to keep people out. They're the lines that protect your self-worth. And walking away doesn't mean you failed. Sometimes, it's the bravest and strongest choice you can make. That night, she thought she'd broken me. But in reality, it was the night I finally set myself free. So tell me, if you were in my shoes, would you have packed her bags too?